were in a secluded, desolate place. There was just 12 of us. But the paranoia, it got to us. It could have been any of us. Hell, it could have been you. It could have been me. It hid just inside of our skin until it felt threatened. And then it changed. This is the movie that changed me. The movie I'm talking about is John Carpenter's 1982, The Thing. This movie changed me in more ways than I can even describe. It was the first of its kind. It made me fall in love with that director. More so than even Halloween or The Fog did prior. I've loved all his movies outside of Ghosts of Mars ever since. I even liked his Showtime special called Body Bags. I invested money into Dark Star to see his student film, which was campy. But The Thing was a game changer. Let me talk you through it for those of you who's never experienced this movie. Come with me on a journey to the past, to Antarctica in 1982. Our story starts as the Norwegians are chasing in a helicopter one random husky running through the snow. This husky is just trying to get away, trying to escape. Meanwhile, the Norwegians inside the helicopter are trying to shoot him, but to no avail. They constantly are missing. They even throw grenades out, and the dog evades them. The dog runs and runs and runs and finally gets to the U.S. outpost in Antarctica, where he rushes to one of the people there. Meanwhile, the Norwegians have landed, and they go ahead and shoot at the dog, injuring the man in his thigh. Well, the captain peers through. Everyone's ducking in for cover. The captain breaks the glass. He pulls out his pea shooter, and he clips the guy right through his goggles in his ocular socket. The Norwegian falls to the ground, twitching. Body dead. The dog keeper that takes care of their own huskies comes out. The dog rushes to him. He takes him, puts him in the kennel. No one knows what's going on. They think the Norwegians went stir crazy. But it wasn't until someone wanted to go fly over to their camp and find out what happened. Risking life and limb, they go ahead and fly into what's called a whiteout, or a possible whiteout storm coming. Creedy, played by Kurt Russell, goes ahead and he's the main character, the main protagonist, amongst 11 other protagonists. Because the antagonist is something different, something we've never seen before, something that came here thousands and thousands of years ago, that was stuck in the ice, that the Norwegians uncovered, and it thawed out, and it took over their camp and sought refuge inside of that husky. We go and we follow them to the Norwegian camp, where you see all this death and desolation all around. People have their wrists slit and their throats slit. There's axes in the walls. There's this big, almost like sarcophagus of ice that has an indented area in the center, but nothing's there. Outside, you see this grotesque mass of two different human beings melted together, smelling like smoke and kerosene. They wrap it up in a blanket and they bring it back. Why not? They're scientists. Why wouldn't they want to look into this, find out what's going on? Meanwhile, back at the U.S. camp, they go ahead and their doctor, their main scientist, starts looking at it and examining it, noticing that it is human beings. He takes samples. The dog's through the rec room, and they say, put this dog in the kennel that doesn't belong around us. Makes me nervous. Now the dog's in the kennel with the other dogs. In the distance, you hear the howling. The dog attacked them. The dog is trying to assimilate each one, but it turns into something that it's been before. In comes MacReady and Childs and all of them with flamethrowers, and they go ahead and they blast the thing, and it falls, and they keep blasting it. This thing has almost like dog tongues that come out of its chest, with tentacles like spider legs, and a big jaw that opened up like a flower at the very top. While the doctor's examining it, he notices that the blood is still living. There's still life in it. So they put everything in the storage room, and people are just going about their business. Did it get someone? Did someone get infected? Did someone get taken over? Why, yes, they did. This movie delves into paranoia on a different level. It really attacks our own psyche. And it's amazing how it did that. The funny thing about this movie is it had practical special effects. These were done with hand puppets, radio controls, marionettes, pull cables, and prosthetics. And this was done by a 22-year-old Rob Bottin, who just got finished doing The Howling, which had one of the most fantastic werewolf transformations I've ever seen. And the reason why he knew that is because he was an extra on The Fog. He was one of the pirates that were in The Fog. That's how he knew John Carpenter. And he had this relationship. And John Carpenter loved how he did the stuff in The Howling. So he was like, heck yeah. This kid was 22 years old, doing great things, practical applications. This was not CG, not at all. This was done with chemicals and plastics and foams and things like that. Now the movie, The Thing, was a remake. In 1951, they had another one that came through. And that movie was called The Thing from Another World. That one was a little more 1950-ish, obviously. It was in black and white, and the alien was more of a vegetable, like a carrot. And it was one thing. And it had a group of guys, but there was a woman there too. When asked why they didn't have a woman, John Carpenter says there was more tension when it was an all-male cast. And he changed the alien from just one guy that was based on a carrot, like legitimately, to a shapeshifter that can assume the identity of any living organism. And when felt threatened or attacked, it can turn into any living organism it's ever adapted to. And again, the funny thing about this is that was adapted from the original story. Now, that was from 1938. It was a novella by John W. Campbell Jr., and it was called Who Goes There? I would say John Carpenter's adaptation was way more accurate to this novella than the other one from 1951. Now, that was published in a pulp magazine. They called it a pulp magazine because they made it out of pulp, called Astonishing Science Fiction. It was a short story. And I think it's amazing that a lot of these science fiction movies are made out of short stories. The reason why is the screenplay was written by Bill Lancaster, who did a phenomenal job. And just to let you know that it has celebrated its 44th year. It got released, and I'm looking at numbers right here, on June 25th, 1982. And Common Video release came out in 1983. But it was not until September 9th, 1988, when it became for sale to the general public in video. The funny thing is, the budget on this movie was $15 million back then. This was big budget money for John Carpenter. This is his first of the kind. The special effects costed $1.5 million to do, so 10% of the entire budget was for the special effects, which really isn't that bad when it comes down to it. Now, it made 19.6 million in the box office worldwide, but it had a breakdown of, for them to break even, they have to make about twice as much as what their budget is, because you got marketing costs and things of that nature and distribution costs. So in order for them to break even, they had to make about 30 million. They made 19.6. Well, that's kind of sad, because it had life after that and it had a lot of legs. The DVD sales were 189,000 and the Blu-ray were 9,900,000. So it made over $10 million in addition after the release. And it still gets streamed constantly. If you ask any sci-fi buff, they're going to say that movie is one of their top 10. And if it isn't, I get it. You know, it's their opinion. Guys, there's a reason why I'm wearing the shirt. This is my number one movie of all time. It's not even close. This movie, I went with my father to go see when I was 12. And I was on the edge of my seat. It was scary, it was suspenseful, and it was a mystery. The effects in it were mind-blowing to me as a kid. And my father, a grown-ass man, couldn't figure out how these effects were done. It was beautiful how they did it, with everything that was going on, with this ensemble cast of so many different stars, including Wilford Brimley, who played in Cocoon. And of course, Kurt Russell. I mean, he had a long career at that point, starting off when he was a little kid with Disney and Westerns and Escape from Witch Mountain, I think it was called. The Rock did a remake, which was horrible. Ugh. It's just such a great movie. It's good depth. And it ended with a question mark. At the end, when the whole campus is burning to the ground, you have MacReady on one side, you have Childs on another. They don't know if one of them's the Thing, because they weren't together. And at multiple times, they were off camera. Both of them, including MacReady. They could have been. It ends, it pulls away, showing the smoke and smoldering flames, and them just sitting there, waiting to die. Once the fire goes out, they'll freeze to death. But before that, you had great scenes. You had the trap jaw scene, where the chest opens up, chest cavity, and it rips off the forearms of the doctor named Copper. And you have the let's see it through the blood scene. It even had comedy beats in there. You had great suspense throughout that entire movie. My wife is not a watcher of horror movies, and she'll tell you that this movie still holds up. That is the movie, guys, that changed me. It made me fall in love with an entire genre. I am obsessed with horror movies now because of that movie, because of Rob Bottin. Between that and The Howling, more so The Thing, 100%. It made me fall in love with the director and his style. Even that he played music for it. The iconic theme. Dum dum. Dum dum. Dum dum. Man, so great. I've watched every documentary, every behind the scenes there is. I think I've invested $300-400 on films like it just to watch something that was adapted close to it. Heck, I even watched the prequel to it, which supposedly explained it, but they didn't use practical effects. They used CGI. It was still a good movie. It still had good beats like The Thing did, but it wasn't the original. All right, guys, do me a favor. In the comments, if you would please, not just Sergeant Frosty Man, love you, brother. Tell me what the movie was in your childhood that changed you. It doesn't have to be sci-fi or horror. It can be anything. And until next time, pay attention to who's around you. Make sure you look, because you'll never know. It could be anyone. It could be you. It could be your spouse. It could be me.